Imagine the late 19th century, a time of horses and carriages, dirt roads, and the faint smell of coal in the air. America was industrializing fast, but transportation was still stuck in the past. Into this world came a dreamer, Henry Ford, a young man from a Michigan farm, fascinated not by crops or cattle, but by machines. Henry Ford wasn't a rich man. He wasn't from a powerful family, but he was relentless. He believed that machines could set people free, that a self-propelled vehicle, something entirely new, could change how humans lived, worked, and moved. He once said, "I will build a motor car for the great multitude," and that single sentence would soon reshape the entire planet. In 1896, in a tiny workshop behind his home in Detroit, Henry Ford built his first car, the quadricycle. It was little more than a frame, 4 bicycle wheels, and a small engine, but it worked. The machine sputtered to life, rolled forward, and history began to turn its wheels. Ford's first attempts at business didn't go smoothly. His Detroit Automobile Company, founded in 1899, failed within 2 years. Investors wanted profits. Ford wanted perfection. He quit twice to focus on engineering better engines and lighter cars. But each failure taught him something crucial. He learned how to build more efficiently, how to balance design and production, and, most importantly, how to think about scale. By 1903, with just $28,000 from 11 investors, Henry Ford founded the Ford Motor Company. Among those investors was a man named Alexander Malcolmson, a coal dealer who believed in Ford's stubborn vision. Ford owned just a small share, but he had the heart of the operation, and the idea that would soon make him a legend. The company's first car, the Model A, sold reasonably well. But Ford's eyes were already on something greater, a car that every working man could afford. His goal was to democratize mobility, not just sell luxury machines to the rich. He once said, "If everyone is moving forward together, then success takes care of itself." That philosophy would guide everything Ford did next. In 1908, the world met the Model T, the car that changed everything. It was simple, durable, and cheap to maintain. It could run on rough roads through mud or snow. Ford called it the universal car. Within months, America was hooked. The Model T was more than a vehicle. It was a symbol of progress, of independence. Farmers could reach towns. Families could travel for pleasure. Goods could move faster than ever before. But the true revolution wasn't just the car. It was how Ford built it. In 1913, Ford introduced the moving assembly line at his Highland Park plant in Detroit. Before that, cars were built by hand, slowly, expensively. The assembly line cut production time for a Model T from 12 hours to just 90 minutes. Costs dropped, prices fell, and suddenly a car was no longer a luxury. It was a household necessity. By 1925, the Model T sold for under $300, less than 3 months' wages for a factory worker. That worker, by the way, was earning more than ever. In 1914, Ford announced the famous $5 day, double the average factory wage. It was radical, even shocking at the time. Critics said Ford was crazy, but his workers could now afford the very cars they built. That meant loyalty, stability, and an expanding middle class, the beginning of the American dream as we know it. By the time production ended in 1927, Ford had sold over 15 million Model Ts. The world was never the same. But success brings challenges. The Model T was beloved, but Ford's obsession with it became a problem. He resisted change. While other automakers like General Motors offered newer styles, colors, and features, Ford insisted on his classic design. Remember the famous line, "You can have any color you want as long as it's black." It was efficient. Black paint dried fastest on the assembly line, but it showed his unwillingness to adapt. By the late 1920s, the world wanted more variety, and Ford's competitors were catching up fast. Under pressure, Henry's son, Edsel Ford, convinced him to modernize. Together, they introduced the Model A in 1927, a stylish, more powerful car that reconnected Ford with the public. Then came the V8 engine in 1932, the first affordable 8-cylinder engine, giving ordinary drivers power that was once reserved for luxury cars. That innovation made Ford the darling of speed enthusiasts, police departments, and even a few gangsters of the era. The company's fortunes revived, but father and son often clashed. Henry was controlling, Edsel gentle and visionary. Their relationship reflected the tension between old and new, tradition versus innovation. When World War II broke out, Ford Motor Company turned its massive factories toward war production. Airplanes, tanks, jeeps, engines, Ford built them all. At the Willow Run plant, the company produced B-24 Liberator bombers at an astonishing pace, one every 63 minutes. America's arsenal of democracy was in full swing. After the war, the world was rebuilding, and so was Ford. Henry Ford II, Edsel's son, took over in 1945. The young Henry Ford II inherited a company that was bloated, outdated, and in disarray, but he was smart enough to know what he didn't know. So he brought in a group of brilliant former Navy officers known as the Whiz Kids, including future Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara. They modernized Ford's management, introduced cost accounting, and streamlined operations. Under their leadership, Ford launched one of the most successful post-war cars ever, the 1949 Ford. It had sleek styling and a modern design that captured the optimism of post-war America. The company was back in fighting form, ready to take on General Motors and Chrysler in what became known as Detroit's Big Three. The 1950s were a golden age for the automobile. Highways stretched across the nation, families hit the road, and car culture became part of American identity. Ford responded with flair, chrome, fins, and V8 Thunder. In 1956, Ford became a public company, selling shares on the stock market for the first time. The same year, it introduced the Thunderbird, a stylish two-seater that became an instant icon. But the real lightning bolt struck in 1964, the Ford Mustang. Introduced at the World's Fair in New York, the Mustang captured the imagination of a generation. Affordable, sporty, and customizable, it was the first pony car, and it sold over 400,000 units in its first year. Ford had tapped into America's youthful spirit like never before. It was freedom on four wheels. Around the same time, Ford was making waves in racing, a world dominated by Ferrari. When a deal to buy Ferrari fell through in 1963, Henry Ford II was furious. He decided to beat Ferrari at its own game. Thus was born the Ford GT40, a sleek, powerful racing machine. After years of trial and heartbreak, Ford triumphed at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1966, finishing 1-2-3 and ending Ferrari's dominance. Ford repeated the feat 3 more years in a row. That victory became legend, and in 2019 inspired the hit film Ford v Ferrari. But the open-road dream hit turbulence in the 1970s. Rising fuel prices, environmental concerns, and foreign competition shook the American auto industry. The 1973 oil crisis sent shockwaves through Detroit. Suddenly, buyers wanted smaller, fuel-efficient cars, and the Japanese brands like Toyota and Honda delivered exactly that. Ford, caught off guard, scrambled to respond. The Pinto, launched in 1971, was designed to be compact and cheap, but a series of accidents and lawsuits over its fuel tank design tarnished the company's reputation. Still, Ford learned and adapted. The Ford Fiesta and Escort brought smaller European designs to American buyers. The company invested in safety, emissions technology, and global operations. In 1979, Ford made a bold hire, Lee Iacocca, one of the most dynamic executives in the business. He'd soon move on to save Chrysler, but his mark at Ford was indelible, particularly the Ford Mustang II, a timely reinvention that kept the brand alive through tough times. By the 1980s, Ford was back on track. Under CEO Donald Peterson, the company emphasized quality and innovation. The Ford Taurus, launched in 1985, was a game-changer. Aerodynamic, efficient, and stylish. It became the best-selling car in America and symbolized Ford's rebirth. As globalization accelerated, Ford expanded aggressively. It acquired stakes in Aston Martin, Jaguar, Volvo Cars, and Mazda, creating what it called the Premier Automotive Group. The idea was to build a global family of brands under the Ford umbrella. Ford trucks also became legendary. The F-Series, first introduced back in 1948, became America's favorite pickup. And by the 1990s, it was more than just a work truck. It was a symbol of strength, family, and American grit. The F-150 would go on to become the best-selling vehicle in the United States for more than 40 consecutive years. Yet challenges mounted: rising costs, competition, and changing tastes. In 2001, Ford faced financial strains, and by the mid-2000s, the entire auto industry was heading toward crisis. Enter Alan Mulally, a former Boeing executive who took over as CEO in 2006. He implemented the One Ford strategy, focusing on core products, unifying global operations, and selling off luxury brands that distracted from the main business. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, Ford did something remarkable. It avoided bankruptcy and a government bailout. While GM and Chrysler required federal rescue, Ford stood on its own, thanks to Mulally's foresight and massive cost restructuring. It was a turning point that restored pride in the Blue Oval. In the 2010s, Ford embraced technology and sustainability. The company doubled down on its truck and SUV strengths while experimenting with electric and hybrid vehicles. The EcoBoost engine, smaller, turbocharged, and efficient, proved that performance didn't have to mean pollution. The Ford Fusion Hybrid and C-Max pushed into eco-friendly territory, while the Mustang evolved into a 21st century icon. But perhaps the boldest move came in the 2020s, the electric revolution. Ford announced massive investments in EV technology, battery plants, and sustainable manufacturing. In 2021, it unveiled the Mustang Mach-E, a fully electric SUV that blended Ford's performance DNA with cutting-edge innovation. Critics were skeptical. How could a Mustang be an SUV? But the car won over hearts and awards alike. Then came the F-150 Lightning, an all-electric version of the most popular truck in America. It was powerful, practical, and, crucially, familiar. It showed that the future didn't have to abandon tradition. It could evolve from it. By the mid-2020s, Ford was positioning itself as not just an automaker, but a mobility company, investing in autonomous vehicles, software platforms, and digital services. Its factories were becoming greener, its cars smarter, its mission broader. Today, Ford stands at a crossroads much like the one Henry Ford faced over a century ago. The tools have changed, from pistons to processors, from gasoline to gigawatts, but the dream remains the same: to move people forward. Ford is still a family company, unique among global giants. The Ford family holds significant voting control, ensuring that Henry's vision endures. That's rare in the modern corporate world. The company's new motto, "Built for the road ahead," feels more than a slogan. It's a declaration. Ford isn't just building vehicles, it's building the future of mobility: electric, connected, sustainable, and human-centered. Whether it's through the roaring engines of a Mustang or the silent power of a Lightning, Ford continues to embody something deeply American: the belief that innovation and hard work can change the world. If Henry Ford could see today's world, electric vehicles charging silently in driveways, cars driving themselves, and assembly lines run by robots, he'd probably smile. Not because everything turned out exactly as he imagined, but because his core idea proved timeless: that technology, when used with purpose, can bring freedom to ordinary people. From the quadricycle to the Mach-E, from one man's dream in a Detroit shed to a company shaping the future of global mobility. The story of Ford isn't just about cars, it's about people, progress, and possibility. After all, as Henry Ford once said, coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, working together is success. And more than a century later, the world is still moving forward.